Right. This is kind of a bit of a change up from what I'm used to. That was a quick button there. Hair trigger. Um, Normally, I talk about something I've done for the county. You might remember the resistivity talk or a new way of looking at cars, and probably the best nap you've ever had during those times. So hopefully, I can keep you awake this time. But anyway, so this time it was asked, well, can you talk about the museum and what you guys do out there? And so I got to thinking about this. What do we do, really? Who are we? So anyway, it was kind of a neat weekend to kind of think about what we did, and I realized that I can't fit this into just a 20-minute presentation, but I'm gonna give it a try. So we do a little bit of everything out there. If you guys have been out there to take the tour, you know that we do it all. From dinosaurs, of course, to we even work with the Highway Patrol occasionally on doing some forensic identification of skeletal remains. So everything from A to Z. But this is a fun one. So just before I got started here, we were talking about Yellowstone and the Black Hills and all that. River Bluff Cave, of course, is the famous thing that the museum works on. That's kind of how we got our start out there. If it wasn't for River Bluff Cave, I think the museum would probably be somewhere else. Possibly. Anyway, it certainly wouldn't have gotten going as quick as it did. But I'll just stick with we've all heard the story. I think I've talked to you guys about it, so I won't bore you or myself with that at all. But one of the newest and coolest discoveries we've made in the cave, and that we're working on right now, is the volcanic ash from Yellowstone that we found in the cave. So there is a connection honestly, there's a connection with Greene County and Yellowstone. Who's been to Yellowstone? Anybody? Been to Mammoth Spring? Okay. Everyone goes to Mammoth Spring. They're, oh, it's such a cool area. No one actually turns around and looks at the valley behind. That valley is part of the caldera for the Lava Creek eruption that corked off 640,000 years ago. It was the last eruption, major eruption for Yellowstone. But that's the ash that fell here, over 1,000 miles away from that eruption in that crater. So if you ever go back there, or Cindy, when you go there next year, you
Yes,
need to
next year.
go to Mammoth Spring and just say, oh, this is pretty, and then turn around and go, oh, that's where that came from. So anyway, it's this, let's see, the laser pointer doesn't work on the screen. Okay, looks like a glass shard in the middle of that slide. That is the glass shard of ash. Volcanic ash is essentially, glass, broken glass. And so there's a chemical signature as well as a morphologic signature, the shape of it, the chemical makeup of it, that we can identify what volcano and what eruption event caused that ash deposit. So we have in Greene County, in the cave, there's a few other places as well we have found since, we do have an ash deposit. So it probably would have been a foot or two thick here in Greene County after the eruption, which is kind of interesting. We're also looking at now the mass extinction events. So you can see here that Yellowstone is the little red dot up in the upper left part of the map. And then the green haze there is the ash that fell out of that. Now, of course, you get closer to the caldera, the ash deposits get thicker. So out here, it's a foot or two. There, you'll see hundreds of feet in thickness of material. So it's kind of neat to see that. When we started getting initial dates on a River Bluff Cave, that we knew we're close to 640,000 years ago, I thought, wouldn't it be a hoot if we found the ash? And we did. It took us a few years to finally get somebody suckered into helping us out, but we did find it, which is really, really interesting. But it helps us determine, mass extinction events. We're now seeing why animals died off here in the Midwest, and it's starting to answer a lot of questions. So this study we did starting a few years ago then led us into this really weird rabbit hole. So I was contacted by some Brazilians. And they said, so you work on supervolcanoes? I go, well, just the end result, like kind of what happened 1,000 miles away. They said, well, we have an issue. We have diamonds that we find. We have big ones near a caldera. We have little ones 1,500 kilometers away. And we don't quite know why. And so it's us, really? Okay, well, we'll give it a try. And so, 3-4 years later now, the museum and some of the staff there are now experts in diamond distribution in association with supervolcanoes. That's an obscure thing. This week I was going through like, let's put some weird stuff in there, you know. But anyway, so if you go, this is actually the little arrow is pointing to that little gray blob in the middle of it. That's a 4 carat diamond sticking to the rock. So if you visit the museum, you'll see the diamond. We call it the Hoover diamond after a good research associate of ours who passed away a year and a half ago. But this is from Brazil, obviously, and it's neat. It's a place called Serra Negra that we're working on. It's this big caldera that reaches down about 50 kilometers into the crust. Really cool geology. So the things that you find yourself doing in life, it's odd. But anyway, we're most famous, honestly, for our dinosaurs. If you've been to the museum, you've seen our dinosaurs. If you've seen us on TV or whatever, or Facebook, we dig dinosaurs. We dig a ton of dinosaurs. We dig them for ourselves. We dig them for museums. We just love digging. Our crew is kind of specialized. We know what we're doing. We can get in there and really move a lot of rock and dirt very quickly. And I like this picture because it's got a lot of our team in it. A lot of these people have gone on now to colleges, universities to continue on with paleontology. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. But that's my son up in the front of the picture there. So it really is a family event for us. My wife occasionally goes, but my son loves it out there. You know, with the Badlands, I mean, I got pictures of him up on top of those spires. Loves it out there.
Oh, wow.
So, yep. So these lead to things. And so our luck, the museum does have a lot of good luck. So we have the world's largest Triceratops. Again, if you've been out there, you've seen Henry, named after my son. It is huge. If you go to their museums and you see their Triceratops, it's funny because you kind of get, at least for us, we get numb to it. We see Henry all the time. And then when you go to their museum, you're like, oh, yeah, ours is really big. I remember one time out in Morrison, Colorado, my wife was with me. We were touring a small museum out there, and she turns a corner, looks at the Triceratops, and says, "Oh my gosh, their Triceratops is so small." I'm like, "Don't you tell that to people? You know, that's that they get offended. Can't talk about the size of your dinosaur." But anyway, but that's one of those things where, yeah, you look at ours and you compare it to other ones, and it's almost double the size. It's amazing. So. Anyway, we have we're, as they call it, home of the homemade dinosaurs. So most museums do not build their own dinosaurs. We now know why. It's a long process. This thing took us years to build. It was an absolute disaster because I decided to build it in front of the public. So you can see here, you can see the museum space behind us. We wanted people to see the not daily, the weekly, maybe monthly progression on it, which was kind of a mess. But lots of nights and weekends, holidays. We worked on this thing, welding. This place would fill it full of welding smoke in a matter of a few minutes, choke everybody out. The visitors wouldn't want to come in. Again, we made huge mistakes building this thing in place. The next one we're building, the Nodosaur, that'll be in the lab, far away from people in the view of everybody. But they can still come down and check it out if they want. But we can make all the noise and smoke we want down there. Now, a Denversaur is an armored dinosaur. And this doesn't look like much except a 4x8 sheet of plywood with a whole bunch of cow patties on it. But trust me, these are all the armor plates from the back of the dinosaur. It's the most complete Denversaur ever discovered as far as the shell of it or the carapace. So this thing is really spectacular. We're really excited about having it in our collection. We found this right next to, like the next hill over from our Henry Triceratops. So great ranch to work on out there. Lots of dinosaurs. This one will be done probably over the winter, I think. It'll be easier to build. It's only 5 feet tall and maybe 12 feet long. So it'll be easier than the giant one that was 23 feet long and 12 feet high. It's roughly the size of Henry. So anyway, but that's it. So it's a cool thing. What's also neat is that not only do we find the biggest, the best all the time, just our weird luck, It's also scientifically unique. There's a lot of really cool parts to this that have never been found before. And we use 3D print technology to fill in the missing pieces. And we're also printing, we do this in house. These are the missing bones. So we had the entire shell, but not the skeleton of it, or most of it. We had a few bones, but not much. So we can 3D print the missing parts, and we're almost done with that. So once we get done with that, we can start to mount this thing. Um, and so that's kind of neat that we can do this all in house. We're kind of leading edge of the 3D print technology and photogrammetry, which has been kind of neat. Everyone else is kind of caught up for the most part, but we're still one of the pioneers in that field. So what's cool about this is because of our photogrammetry, because of the unique specimen, and because we've recently in the past couple of years, we've had a really cool pool of students coming through the museum. This is a poster that was presented just 2 weeks ago at the Society for Vertebrate Paleontology by one of our former employees who is now a student at the University of Wyoming, and he's working on armored dinosaurs. And so our Denversaur is featured on this poster as one of the specimens, one of the scientifically unique specimens. So this is the level that we do. We're always out there pushing that envelope, publishing those papers, getting out to the conferences, and sharing what we have. And we're fortunate. We are very fortunate to have the luck to find cool things. So that leads us to kind of how it all started here. Of course, if you've been out there recently, you realize we are out of room. And because we're fortunate to find big dinosaurs, we run out of room very quickly. So recently, we have raised the majority of the money for an addition. This will be a classroom edition. The problem we've been having lately is more people are showing up. We have roughly 5,000, a little over 5,000 on average a year come through our doors on field trips. Not to mention, 15,000 give or take, and that number increases every year of just people who walk in. So we have a giant dinosaur in the middle of where we used to give lectures to kids during their field trip. And so now we have to kind of stagger them around the skeleton, and they're kind of looking through the skeleton like this as I'm talking to them or someone's talking to them. And then you have people that walk in and like, oh, sorry, I'm in the middle of a field trip. Nope, come on in. We have to explain to them it's fine. Just don't let the 5-year-olds bite you. They're safe. They had their shots. So anyway, there's that kind of clash, if you will, in there of space. And so getting a designated classroom space really is important to us. It's needed, way past due. And so we'll have that sometime next year. We'll have it built, hopefully. But I'm certain it'll be next year. Anyone who's ever worked in construction, don't trust people that say that there's a due date to it. Like, oh, I've been done in 6 months. Yeah, right. I'll start in 6 months. But Rusty's laughing. He's and I get the question all the time. When do you plan on building? Like, an honest construction guy, So anyway, it'll be a fun one. It'll be 2,500 square foot of event space, classroom space. And then we do plan on expanding our mineral collection, which will be unwalled cases in there. So it'll be a display area as well. So we're hoping on top of just the classroom for the field trips and things like that, that we'll actually have a monthly lecture series as well. That'll be out there. So we'll have local researchers coming out, maybe some visiting ones as well. It won't just be the 12 phases of Matt Forir talking about weird stuff. So I promise, at least 1 or 2 months, but not 12. So anyway, this is a warning: building a museum may have certain side effects, and it does. Things have happened that I didn't realize would happen. We're mentoring kids. We have a big growing pool of kids that are out there. I call them kids because I'm 50. They're all much younger. They're out there in paleontology, in geology, doing that cool work, continuing our work, really neat stuff. Last spring, I was at a geology conference here in town, and I walked out of the room after I gave my talk on the lead mines of Greene County. It was an exhilarating talk. Anyway, Gives you goosebumps. Uh, yeah. All right. Anyway, and so I got these two kids, Bo on the left and Jacob on the right, and they're standing there and they're like, "Hey, we want to talk to you." I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's going on, guys?" Like, "Do you remember me?" I'm like, "No." And they go, "Oh, I talked to you when I was in fifth grade. I had to interview you about for my school paper." Okay. He goes, that 30-minute conversation, you inspired me to go into geology. I'm like, I'm sorry, I mean, you look at just, in compensation or something. I don't know. I mean, but anyway, he is a mine geologist, actually a mine engineer now out at the Springfield Underground out by the jail. So that's the guy on the left, Bo. And Jacob is there on the right. He is actually at Baylor University getting his PhD on all things crinoids. This is a Missouri State fossil, and I find them to be the most boring fossil in existence. So anyway, but it's fun because you start to realize when you get these kids that come, "Hey, you inspired me. You did this for me," which was really cool. It makes it worthwhile. So our impact on the community. Right now, currently, we have around 10 students that are either in the museum, getting ready to kind of go out into college, or they're out in universities doing some cool field work. We just started a partnership, or we're kind of in the very planning stages of a new partnership with MSU, not in the geology department, which is odd. It's in the biomedical sciences. So we will be teaching anatomy students, soon to be doctors, hopefully soon to be doctors, how to dig dinosaurs, and then start to talk about dinosaur anatomy, which will be interesting. So that hopefully we can get the permits and everything going, and we can start that dig sometime this summer on top of our other digs in Wyoming. So it'll be a busy field season. Get to burn up a lot of vacation time out there, which would be good. So anyway, we constantly maintain a growing collection of both fossils and minerals from the area. So we have a lot of people that do come through the area that are interested in the mineral resources and fossil resources. We have that, on site. We can show them the collection. They can work on it. All of our collections are open to the public, for research and just to check out. So. And again, we have approximately 5,000 school kids. I think it's like 5,300 we had in last year. Kids annually visit the museum. They reach from over as far east as Thayer, Rolla, as far north as Clinton, into Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. So we really do serve a large area. But which is kind of neat. It's neat when you get these field trips that come in from, Galena, Kansas, or someplace like that. You guys are traveling hours to get here, which is really cool. And then also, we're bringing international research home to the Ozarks. So, people think of the Ozarks. When I was a kid, I used to read National Geographic, and all the cool places were somewhere else. I had to go to Africa or Asia or Europe somewhere to find cool stuff. But honestly, it's right here in our backyard. We have some great sites here in the Midwest, and we try to showcase that. We try to get that information out to the world. And then with that, we also bring the rest of the world to the Ozarks to show people kind of how cool natural history can be. So anyway, and much, much more, honestly, and I'm sorry I went over time, but trying to fit what we do in this was a crazy amount of thinking over the weekend to do. A lot more out there, guys. If you haven't been out there yet, come out, visit us. I'm out there most Saturdays. When in doubt, shoot me an email or call me or something like that and make sure I'm going to be out there on a Saturday, because right now it's deer season, so I won't be there the next few Saturdays. Yeah, exactly. So you still come out, but I won't be there. So anyway, any questions?
Does the museum have regular hours or just special appointment with you on Saturday?
Oh, no. So, we have regular hours. So during the weekdays, we're open 9 to 4:30, and then Saturdays 10 to 4. And we're going to expand those hours a bit here pretty soon. We're just now talking about maybe open till 7 o'clock or something like that during the weekdays. But so, yep.
What's the major source of funding for all of these field projects and the expansion that you have at the museum?
The expansion, our donations and also some local foundations like Schreiber Foods, places like that. We've had some matching grants from some, anonymous donors, um, which has been nice. Uh, Operationally, we get a good chunk from our partner Greene County here, which we're grateful for, and that kind of helps with the administrative costs, that kind of stuff. Field work, we raise that through the sale of gift shops or donations, whatever.
How tempting or how hard is it to not want to sell some of your findings or some of yours? Or are you limited to what you find
Oh,
on your fields? Because I've seen stories where people are paying millions and millions of dollars for a dinosaur head to put in their living room and things like that.
yeah, I mean, Henry, the Triceratops was appraised at $3.5 million a couple years ago, and I thought that was way low. I mean, everything else was selling for 4 and 5 million, and that came in super low. Um, yeah, we have specimens. The giant safe in the museum, which is barely open, but has $500,000 worth of rare topaz and gold in it. So it adds up real quick on what the value is. As an academic, I mean, I can sit there and kind of throw the numbers out. I know those numbers because people ask me like, "Oh, how much is your dinosaur?" But as an academic, I don't see price. I get it all the time, like, "Hey, how much is it worth?" I don't know. Whatever's worth to you. Put it on eBay. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I do deal with a lot of friends in the field that are commercial paleontologists, and they're constantly like, "Oh, I can get $4 million for this or 10 million." Like, look great by museum too for free if you want to donate it. So I just see the world differently than they do because I'm an academic and not a commercial guy. So it's one reason I didn't go into the commercial side of the game because I don't see. Plus, I'm a horrible business person. Actually, terrible. So um, I'm better off as an academic with everything's valueless at that point. So.
So Matt, when you go on the digs,
Mhm.
how long a time period do you allot for it? And then how many others, volunteers or other team members do you have that when you go on the digs?
Team members vary. We try to get some of the new people in. So if we have a big crop of kids, those college kids that are really interested, then that size of that dig ends up getting a little big. We try to cap at about 10 or 11. Any more than that, it just gets to be a logistic nightmare because you've been to Black Hills. You got someone like, "Hey, I'm in Custer." They're in Keystone or Hill City. They have no idea where they're at, and you're trying to run through the Black Hills trying to find them to meet with you because you can't say, "Oh, I'll meet you out at Mike's Ranch." Good luck finding that place. I mean, you got a caravan out there. So just logistically, we try to keep the dig small. Ideally, when we're doing a quick dig that might last a week, we've got 5 people on our team that are absolutely amazing diggers. They've got, so most of these guys have 15 years experience. I mean, I've got 30 at this point. Actually, well, over 30 now. On certain digs, we keep it small. We can move a lot of dirt and rock very quickly and work with bone fast, pull the bone out. So.
Are you going basically to the same location and continuing the dig, or are they new locations?
So the one ranch we've been working on for the past 11 years, 12 years now, it's a 53,000 acre ranch. So a lot of room out there. I mean, so you can be miles away and still be on the same ranch. And so we have been working on that ranch primarily. Last year we started to look at other sites on other ranches as well. Because, our museum, we're honest. We don't mind going up and doing some work, running fence, water line for ranchers. They like us, which is rare for Wyoming ranchers who hate everybody. And so we're getting invited on new ranches now to look because they know that what we bring is help and we can find stuff. And what we do is we'll find you a dinosaur that you can sell, and we'll even help you find a buyer for that dinosaur. But in return, you're going to need a tax write-off because when you sell your dinosaur for $4 million, our 501c3 not-for-profit corporation comes in very handy, and they know that. And so we're the tax write-off for their big dinosaurs. So we get a lesser dinosaur, say that, we get some pretty good ones, but in return, they get their money, and we get our dinosaurs and other fossils as well. Yeah. We try to keep the digs about a week long, maybe 10 days, just because of people's time frame. I mean, everyone on our crew has other jobs. So we try to be respectful of that.
How do you know where to dig? I mean, is it just you fly a drone over and say that just feels right? What's
I wish it was that way.
yeah?
To be straight. So no, you just gotta go out there and walk. You'll find the bones sticking out of the ground. You'll see a scatter of chunks. We call them chunkosaurus. And then you just kind of get back there and start probing in there with a knife and kind of seeing is it just a few bone fragments? Does it lead to something else? And then it's a gamble because it's not Jurassic Park. You don't find the whole skeleton. So when you get in, is it 10% of the skeleton? Is it 90%? And so the whole time you're gambling, how many people do I have on this site? Do I still need to have people walking around looking for other possibilities? How long do we dig on this? And then when we run a bone, when do we stop? That's the big one. How many feet? Every field worker has in their mind their stopping point. Some it's 10, some it's 20. The Henry dig ended up being 70 feet wide. From our main dig area, we started to find bones from it that were washed down the creek 73 feet away. So this one broke all of our rules on how we, but it's the world's largest Triceratops, so it was worth going after. I worked on a T-Rex dig, Bucky the T-Rex. It's in the Children's Museum in Indianapolis. That was 150 feet long, that dig. It was crazy. I mean, we were finding a bone every 20 feet, but it was T-Rex, and it was gorgeous, the bone preservation. We finally had to stop when the back wall reached about 100 feet. We just couldn't quarry enough rock by hand to finish that dig. So there's still more of that one out there. I don't think everyone's ever going to get to it. Now, there are certain areas you can just get to and say, I got a feeling about this place. And that's when you kind of jump out of the truck and start walking. So there's a lot of, after 33, 34 years in the field, there are that you do get the feelings. So I wish we could just drone it. That'd be great. Just drone it and find everything and it'd be wonderful. But technology's not there yet. So, any other questions?
You use some technology to find some remains in a cemetery area. Can you use the same kind of thing to find bones out?
So you probably heard about us using the county resistivity to find graves out at the Ulm Cemetery, a year ago or so. Kevin and I did that. Yes, well, potentially you could. Now, years ago, I took shallow seismic out west, and that's how we found the rest of the Triceratops. We dug, and then we were 6, 8 feet away, and we lost all the bone. There was nothing left. And so I thought, okay, well, this stinks. So I brought the shallow seismic, we thumped the ground, and we found the additional part of the skeleton. So geophysics does work on bones. That was the first time shallow seismic had ever been used to find a dinosaur. And it worked pretty well. I mean, it was okay. As far as resistivity, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. We haven't tried it. I mean, I had to talk Kevin into let me drag out the resistivity. Is that a misuse of county and stuff? Anyway, maybe I won't do that. You know, rent it and take it out there. Anyway. But plus, it's so dry out there. It'd be really hard to use resistivity. You got to have moisture. So, shallow seismic, you just thump the ground. Doesn't matter how wet it is or dry. So, there are limitations. All right, guys. Sorry, I went way over. Sorry. So, all right, thanks again.